Welcome in. AP Film Room happening here on a Tuesday night. We're recording this. Probably going to get it to you on a Wednesday. What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? It's me, Ron Kopp, lead analyst at arrowheadpride.com. This is slowly or progressively becoming my favorite part of the week. Breaking down plays with my guys, Talon and Bryan. You read their stuff on arrowheadpride.com. They break down film for you. Each have an article out right now on the site. And I'll start with Talon because that's the freshest one of the two. Talon's got something about the running backs, or Clyde Hilaire, I guess I should say, out his debut back from injury. But first, before we get into all that, Talon, how are you today, my friend?
Man, I'm doing well. Good to see you guys again after a little hiatus, but good to be back and ready to jump back into the film study.
Man, it was nice to get that break. Bryan, how was your break?
Break was awesome. It's good to be back on board, and I feel like we've got an opportunity to have some really satisfying Chiefs wins stacked together here in the weeks ahead, coming off of Dallas. Hopefully a 12th in a row against the Donkeys here this Sunday. I was just starting college the last time they beat the Chiefs, and that may not look like it's saying much, but it is. Yeah, it's good to be back in. This is my favorite part of the week too, especially here with what we're doing at AP. So thank you for joining us if you're watching.
Yes, that's funny, Bryan. Actually, last time the Chiefs lost to the Broncos, I hadn't even started. No. I was a week into my senior year of high school football, so that tells you how long ago it's been. And similar to you, I do not, that doesn't look like much when you look at me either. But anyway, I digress. We're talking about the Cowboys game. We took a week off last week. We wanted to save the film breakdown stuff. Everyone's kind of getting their Thanksgiving break in. It's a perfect time to kind of shut off your computer, shut off the content for the week. I think everyone's back on now this week, right? We're getting ready for the Donkeys, as you mentioned, Bryan. So we're going to kind of refresh and get ready for that game by looking back at the last game, that nice victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Talon, I'm going to let you take it away from here. We're talking about the run game right off the bat. And this is a carry by Darrell Williams early in the game.
Yeah, and I love the personnel, 13 personnel. You got your 3 tight end set with Gray and Bell on one side, and you send Kelsey in motion. And you're going to pull with Tooney, your left guard, and you're going to pull with Blake Bell. Tooney's going to kick out that unblocked D end, who is Micah Parsons, who did cause some problems, but luckily the Chiefs overcame them. But here you see Tooney getting the hat right on Parsons. Does a really good job. Blake Bell kind of goes in there, not really accomplishing much, right? There's nobody really to block. He kind of latches on to Van Der Esch and then just nothing, right? So, but the problem here, none of it matters up front, because when you watch the mesh, the handoff between Darrell and Mahomes, right off the bat, there's something off. I think Darrell is maybe sliding to the wrong side. It looks like Mahomes is anticipating him to take the handoff on the opposite side from where the handoff actually goes. And then that screws up the timing. So if Darrell takes his handoff where he's supposed to, I think he's a lot closer to the line of scrimmage. He can make this cut off of Blake, and I think this is a much bigger game. But instead, he sees a mirage hole backside that closes almost immediately. Because everybody's kind of blocking that way. So obviously nobody's going to expect that run to go that way. So yeah, just from the get-go, this play is kind of screwed up just from the handoff. And this just goes to show you that the basics of football, the fundamentals, a handoff can screw so much up. And to see it at the NFL level is a little discouraging, but it just goes to show you that it happens.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. It looks like it's Mahomes' fault, right? Because it looks like they're running counter. Mm-hmm. And so, that counter step, he's stepping away from where the run side's going. So he's running the right counter step. So it looks like a mental lapse on Mahomes' part to me. Bryan, am I right on that? What do you think on that?
Yeah, no, it feels like I would agree. Yeah, something's definitely not right. The way I see it, though, I agree. I think it's on Mahomes there. And I would say one thing that sticks out is our guy Creed. I know he's getting some rookie of the year type love, at least from Chiefs fans, but that won't happen. Just there's not enough love to go around offensive linemen, but I appreciate his block on this play. It's too bad that the exchange wasn't cleaner, quarterback to running back.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed that out. Honestly, I didn't even that did not point out to me that Creed just dominated that block, kind of just threw him out of the way. I also wanted to point out though, I feel like I would like to see, and I guess it's kind of a hard block for Wiley, but Wiley does a good job of coming off to the second level. I feel like pretty quick at right tackle, but I feel like you'd like to see him get on that outside shoulder of Van Der Esch and kind of seal him off instead of just getting a body on him, because I think if he seals him on his outside shoulder, that lets Bell just go through that hole. And I think Daryl, I mean, you kind of pointed it out, Tom, but he misses the hole here. I know there's not much of a hole, but you're supposed to be following Bell through that hole, kind of through thick or thin, because cutting back, like you mentioned, that's where everyone's blocking guys too. So, yeah, I think if Wiley has a better block on the linebacker here, it allows Bell to get through the hole, maybe to Keon O'Neal at number 42 in that hole. And then you might have a play if Daryl hits it. So interesting. It's a tight play for sure either way. But yeah, no, we got more run game coming up for you. It was Clyde's debut, right? We started off with Daryl, but it was Clyde's game back, and he was the leader of the backfield for the game. So Talon, here's play number 2 from Clyde. This is Clyde's first play he broke down. What are we seeing from this play?
So it looks like we have a little stretch play. We see the 3 linemen on the right side all slide blocking. You got your right tackle Wiley, you got your right guard Smith, and your center all zone blocking to the right. So Clyde is looking for a lane somewhere to the right side of the ball where he's going, and then you can see there's a ton of green grass around their cutback. Van Der Esch is kind of in space, but you can see Creed mirroring him. So that, what I think Clyde needs to do here is if he just makes a clean cut right off of Smith and cuts in behind Creed and he gets up, I think that's a clean run. I think he starts to do that, but then he shuts back inside and then he kind of squares up and he goes around Smith instead of going behind Smith. And I'm not sure if he was thinking he was setting up 92 a little bit better than he was. But yeah, instead of cutting inside and then going back out, why not just put your foot in the ground and get up in behind Smith and tuck in behind Creed? I think that's the path he should have taken. I think that's the correct move. But, that's just what my eyes are telling me. Obviously, his eyes are telling him something different.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is something that I've seen a little bit too much from Clyde, in my opinion, his young career, is that it just seems like he's a little too patient. He kind of just he messes around a little too much in terms of trying to find the perfect seam to kind of hit. I mean, he never truly just hits a seam and goes. And I know he doesn't really have the long speed to be one of those guys that hits a hole and is just all of a sudden 30 yards downfield, blazing everyone, blazing past everybody, but I don't know. It just always seems to me that Clyde just is a little too patient, waits for that perfect seam when sometimes you just got to pick a seam and really go. Brian, am I right on that? Have you noticed that from Clyde in terms of just kind of how he runs? Maybe he's just being a little too, indecisive, I guess is maybe a good word for it.
That has been something that since joining the Chiefs, every now and then you'll see a play where it's like you kind of question his vision a little bit. He can make guys miss in the phone booth, as some might say, very quick laterally. I think that's where he wants to play. He wants to square defenders up and make little cuts like that you see right here on this play. I think also just this outside zone run where his shoulders are square to the sideline. I think that's kind of a tough ask on just him and the way that he plays, because if he were to plant that foot and cut up field and run, even though he runs hard for a guy his size, there's just only so much he can do when it comes to powering and falling forward and breaking tackles of bigger defenders. There's been some running backs on the team in the past who could hit that cut and run through a tackle attempt easier than maybe Clyde could. So I also wonder about that. I wonder about if it's the best play for him, but you can't just run the same things over and over with a guy so it is what it is in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's the point about him. You know, we're running plays where he's like you said, shoulder square to the sideline. I mean, I don't like that. I like this team, especially with this run blocking unit. I like them getting downhill, letting guys like Darrell and Clyde get downhill. Clyde, like I said, I mean, his running style maybe sometimes, prevents him from getting downhill, and that's, him just himself not getting downhill. But the play calling isn't helping either. I would really like to see more gap runs. We've talked about this over and over, but I really think that's something that they could kind of pull out of their back pocket towards the end of the season. This down stretch is just, being able to go into a game, and we saw it against the Bills last year, but actually hammer running the ball, and that means a lot of power play, a lot of counter plays, and they're slowly running more and more of those, but just not enough for me. I think that's something they could do down the stretch with a duo of backs that are both, kind of fresh. Clyde should be fresh after this. And we get another Clyde play here. I'll let you take it away, Talon, for the final play of your segment.
Yeah, so here we are back in 12 personnel with two tight ends. We got Bell and Kelsey there, each off the hip of their respective tackle. But I like the example of the lateral quickness, and this is a perfect, segue, right, Brian, to the lateral quickness you were just alluding to with Clyde. And you can see it just pops off the screen. 1 minute you see him, and the next you don't. Or vice versa. 1 minute you don't see him, and then you do, right? There he is. But what I don't like about it is he's a little too wide. I think he needs to throttle this down a little bit and cut a little bit tighter off of Tooney. And I know he's getting in behind Creed, which isn't a terrible idea, but that's, you're going to want to accelerate past Creed at some point. But with you just tucking your shoulder and getting in behind Creed, you're limiting your yards gained. But so I would like this cut to be much more tighter to Tooney than it is to Creed. You see him, that lateral burst is just way too wide for my liking, and I think he's taken away an opportunity here to show explosion, and he's just spending too much time on the jump cut. He needs to be getting upfield.
No, that's exactly what we're talking about. I think this is a great example because I do think you're right. I think he sets up Tooney perfectly, honestly, because the D lineman kind of shifts his positioning to kind of maybe take away because he thinks maybe Clyde's going in that B gap instead of the A gap, and it sets that up perfectly. But yeah, you're right. He cuts way too wide, gets way too far away from that block, and then he just has no choice really but just to run into Neal here instead of being able to kind of find that, kind of maybe try to get through that seam. To the right of Neal, I guess, from our perspective. And I know that other DB is closing in, but you're right. It is, it's a great example. I don't know. Is there any other things we're seeing on this play, or is it just more of what we're talking about here, Brian?
I think it kind of reminds me early in the season, I did a film review on Clyde running I think it was against the Chargers, the first game against the Chargers. And he is the best option, in my opinion, running the football. There are limitations to that. There is a lot of these 5, 6, 7 yard runs, and hey, that's awesome. There is a limited element, though. Little things like this on plays where maybe this play could have been a lot more, not a lot more, but a little bit more. But he does, like I said, he does a nice job of getting an adequate amount of yardage, keeping the offense ahead of the chains. So in that way, I'm still excited. Even seeing things like this, I think the offense as a whole will really stand to benefit having him healthy, hopefully the rest of the season into the playoff run.
Yeah, as we transition to Brian's segment, here's something we can quickly talk about. Do you guys think though with Clyde, was that just rust? Do you think maybe a little bit this kind of stuff we're seeing in this first game? Because it did seem like before that Buffalo game, that injury, he was playing very well. He had those 2 straight 100-yard games, week 3 and 4, and then week 5 was when he got hurt. Me pointing this kind of stuff out, and we're seeing it on film, obviously. But are these kind of nitpick things? Are they more rust than not? Talon, I'll let you answer first.
I think a little bit of both. I think some of it is the fact that he hadn't played with this offensive line, or he hadn't played at game speed behind this offensive line since week 5. That's 6 weeks, man. That's a long time to be out of game action and get out of rhythm with your boys up front. So I think some of it had to do with that. And I think they just have to get that rhythm back. And I think if we could practice, we'll do it. I think the bye week, it could either help, it could either hurt. Depends on how you look at it. But I think they'll get that figured out. And once they get that timing down and Clyde gets back to recognizing and being familiar with how that offensive line operates in front of him, I think we'll see more bigger runs happen.
Makes sense. All right. Well, Bryan, we are on to the defensive clips we got for you. You'll be heading them. Take it away from here.
Okay. So just to jump right in, if you haven't read the article that went out yesterday about the defense, it really was just about how they have really honed in on their identity. They can play on their terms at this point. Certainly did in the last month. They can win in multiple ways. And so these plays that we're going to go over will hopefully show a little bit about what I mean when it comes to that. So end of the half here, we've got the Ward interception, which turned out to be, I don't know, maybe the play of the game in a lot of ways when it comes to momentum. They have the dime defense on the field with Neiman and Sorensen at those linebacker positions, which is a hot topic amongst fans, but is what it is. Okay. To the top of the screen, they're playing a zone match type coverage where they kind of know who they're probably going to end up covering, but it's not a sure thing. Now, to the bottom of the screen where Ward is, he knows before the snap, he has Lamb really one-on-one. The safety, Thornhill, he's too far away to get over in that area of the field to this route. So it's one-on-one, Lamb versus Ward. I believe Dak knows that he's going to throw the ball there before the ball snapped. And first thing I actually want to point out, though, is from this angle, Tershawn Wharton, I like to see the way that he's really able to bull this left guard back. He basically did not give Dak the room to step into this throw. And maybe to an extent, that is why he left it a little bit short. But at the same time, a play or two prior to this, Lamb beat Ward on a slant route in the same area of the field. And so I got to commend Charvarius a little bit when it comes to he didn't take the cheese. He was patient with his feet, with his eyes, and he even adds a little bit of physicality to the route there at the beginning, really pushing Lamb out towards the sideline. So that has no room to get this ball over near the sideline really at all. And lastly, as far as Ward goes, he does a really nice job getting his head around, but also looking up, finding the football. This is something we know. We've been watching the Chiefs since he got here. Has been a big issue in his game, is locating the football, playing the football the right way. When he finds the ball like this, okay, he gets his eyes on it. At that point, it would have taken a perfect throw, really, from Prescott, I think, for this to be a touchdown. And luckily, Ward takes it a step further and finishes by high pointing it. But and the pass rush as a whole, I think just a little shout out to Ingram and Clark, who do a pretty good job. Harder to see from this angle, but they both kind of set the offensive tackles up. They get them to open their hips up, and ultimately they try to win back inside. Ingram does. The ball is just out so quickly that it's already gone, and then at that point it was Ward's play to make, and he sure did.
Bryan, thank God, or I don't know. I have always been the guy saying, I love Ward to an extent. Ward, he gets there, he has tight coverage, but at some point you have to make a play on the ball. That's just how, that is the cornerback position. You can't be there, you can't be, be in great position, but if the receiver's always catching the ball, you're not a good cornerback. Well, I think you're right. I think that you took the words right out of my mouth, that's always been his problem. And I feel like this year, especially in this last stretch, since he's gotten back from this injury, I feel like all of a sudden you're seeing him get that head around every time in these situations. I mean, there was another play, I think in the same game, maybe I'm thinking it was the Packers game. It was a play down the sideline. He broke up, but again, he gets his head around and high points it and is able to just break it up. So I just wanted to point out that that's always been my main critique with Charvarius. Why I've never been a huge fan of his in terms of being, a guy that we just cement as a starter at cornerback. But if he's playing like this, getting his head around, he has the physical tools to be a really good one, and he's showing it. So it's really good to see. Talon, if you have any Charvarius Ward takes, throw them out. But I was just going to let you, if there's any pass rush stuff you wanted to look at on the line, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to add a little bit more to the Charvarius Ward love. It was a great play by him, and it's one of those plays where you could clip it and put it on a coverage 101 training video, and it's just an unbelievable rep by him. And yeah, man, I not just just repeat what you guys are saying, but yeah, I love to see the development that Ward has shown. And man, if Ward and Snead both figure it out, man, Chiefs have a cornerback duo.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, Snead is playing so well. That's a very professional transition from our guy Talon here as I mess it up because I'm still on mute. But yeah, we got ourselves a L'Jarius Snead play to break down. Brian, I'll let you take it away from here.
One of the best plays of the game again. We have it's 3rd and 5. Dallas is on their own about, 19-yard line, and the dime defense is in. So Sorensen, Neiman playing those linebacker roles, and they're showing blitz. And the offensive coordinator for Dallas, Kellen Moore, he dials the screen pass up. I think he's expecting the blitz. It's what Spagnuolo likes to do. And I think it's a solid call when you really freeze it and you look at the numbers game in terms of how many blockers are available, how many defenders are out there. It's not a bad call, but L'Jarius really, we'll see, he just destroys the play by kind of overriding the coaching aspect. So before the ball snapped, I like Snead communicated. He kind of turns around, signals to Fenton at the top, and tells Fenton that he's going to lock up on the receiver who's at the very top of the screen. And then he turns inside and he's talking to Thornhill and Matthew, making sure they realize what they are doing. They're basically going to take those 3 defenders who are bunched up there towards the top of the formation, depending on where they run, okay, and how those routes disperse. Those 3 guys are going to be responsible for those 3 receivers. It happens to be the screen pass. Spagnuolo does send Sorensen, but he drops Neiman out into this little robber type area just in case there's a shallow crosser of some sort. But again, it's Snead who we need to really look at here because this looks good on the whiteboard. The blocks are there. You should be able to pick up the 5 yards if it's blocked even just okay. But Snead, I mean, it speaks for itself. And I love the way that he flashes outside almost to, even though Lamb didn't even see it, but had Lamb saw that, he would have had to cut it up. And then Snead sheds back inside of the block, and he's there to make the tackle anyways. It's just an incredible play. It's a Pro Bowl, dare I say, all-pro caliber type play, which is exactly what we've been getting from L'Jarius Snead for the better part of the last month.
Don't say, dare I say, because you are completely right. These are plays that all pro players make. He is already, he's shown it it's something we kind of saw at the end of his rookie year, right? We all kind of thought, man, he's a very good aggressive playmaker. He's taking it to another level. He was all over the field against Dallas. Being a guy, I was at the game. I'm telling you, especially this play. It's the kind of play that just makes you jump out of your seat and freak out because it's something you don't see a lot of these kind of players make. It's just, he's a cornerback making plays like a linebacker and he's still, super athletic, super fast at the same time too. But it's just crazy. And the other part of this too, like you were kind of getting at, Brian, is just how he sets up. He is pushing the receiver to go back inside where all his defenders are. That's like his main responsibility, right? Hey, you don't want to let him get outside you, all that. But he just, before he can even allow the guy to go inside and let his guys tackle him, he's the one tackling him because he just throws, Cedric Wilson out of the way. Unbelievable play. You're right, Brian. It really is a kind of all Pro Bowl level type of play. He's already one of the best slot corners in the league in terms of tackling around the line of scrimmage. Yeah, I'm super excited about Snead, Talon. What do you are you excited as me, Talon, or what's going on with Snead? Where's your level at?
Yeah, no, I am very excited. He's very good around the line of scrimmage, and he's starting to make more plays in the air. So he's starting to round out his game, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, and this is just another, with Amari Cooper being out, this is just and Michael Gallup and those guys being banged up. But when you see plays like this, Cedric Wilson, is that really the guy you want blocking L'Jarius Sneed on a play like this? I think, and to see Sneed take advantage of that and just the football IQ and knowing that he's a bigger dude that's a physical corner that can play like a safety in the box. And here it is. I love to see this type of just angry play. And yeah, it was a great one by Sneed.
Yeah, Sneed and Ward, man, they're really coming on. It's hard to kind of tell, right? If the pass rush is really, helping them out that much, or if it's really the coverage that's been so good lately that the pass rush is kind of benefiting from it. Or do we have any quick takes real quick about, whether it's, which one has kind of more to, get credit for, I guess, as the defense is turned around? Is it pass rush or coverage? Do we know?
It's a cop. I mean, it's kind of a cop-out answer, but it is reciprocal. Yeah. It's reciprocal because I think you can have the best set of DBs in the whole league, but if you're rushing the passer like the Chiefs did with 4 guys in September,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how you can have that high of a ceiling as a defense. And on the flip side of that, I would rather have the dominant front 7, but if your coverage is so poor that teams are able to just win with very quickly on the outside, then that's going to be limited too. So to the level they're playing at, I think both do have a heavy hand in it at every level of the defense, to be quite honest.
Talon, do you have, is it going to be the same answer, or do you have a little bit more of a bold take? Can we get some boldness in here?
I think I think a lot of it has to do with the personnel. You got Jones playing back inside. You brought in Melvin Ingram. There's some. You have the right safeties on the field. You have the right linebackers on the field. Willie Gay and Nick Bolton have both started to play. So I think everybody is back in the right spot. I think everybody's starting to figure things out, and I think everything is happening at the same time. And it's remarkable to see. And when you see the progression of a team go from one of the worst in the league historically to one of the worst or one of the best in the month of November, that stuff, it's like a just combustion. Everything happened all at once. And there you see the results, just a complete 180 of the defensive performance.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the biggest thing has been just getting players in the best position, putting a Thornhill in for Sorensen, getting Mike Hughes off the field. No offense to Mike Hughes, but we'd rather see Fenton on the field at this point for sure. But speaking of those young linebackers you mentioned, Willie Gay had himself a day against Dallas, and this was one of those plays. Brian, what do you got for us for Willie Gay here?
So this is a unsung play. You probably aren't going to really see this broken down, hopefully, anywhere else, but it makes a big difference. And if you look back at that defense back in September that was struggling so much, and these are the kinds of plays that really weren't happening, and it would add up and become a huge issue.
Real quick before you get into it, just because you said that, there's a play that I tweeted out from week 4 against Philly, very similar play as this, except it turns into about a 15-yard gain for Zach Ertz because Hitchens can't catch him on the sideline. So if anyone's curious, go watch that play and you'll see what Brian's talking about. This is a major difference from what we were seeing earlier in the season. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and the scary, it's awesome, but the scary thing about it is Willie is still the only linebacker on this team right now who you can trust to make this play with consistency. So I really hope he can stay on the field. But speaking on the play, we've got base defense here. So Hitchens, Bolton, and Willie Gay on the field. It's 1st and 10. Kansas City, they go with more of a zone coverage, which is more common to see against what you have with the I formation, tight end attached at the bottom of the screen. So they go zone, and I don't know where like Dallas or Dak specifically fall in terms of selling play action fakes. I don't know if every defense picks up on that sort of thing more easily against them, or I would think they'd be really good at it because of how effective they are running the football. But I am impressed with really all the linebackers and how quickly they recognize that this is play action pass, and they don't chase towards the top of the screen where the run blocking and the play fake is going. So you see like Hitchens and Bolton, they both do a pretty solid job of at least making that a tighter window if Prescott was going to try to force it into the drag route behind them. I think that's CeeDee Lamb. It may not be Lamb, might be Noah Brown, but it's one of those receivers. And then, of course, here towards the bottom, even though he's not in a great position to begin with, he just has speed that you can't teach. And like I said earlier, unfortunately, none of the other Chiefs linebackers have it. So he's able to take a play that earlier in the season, 10, 15-yard chunk, or best case, maybe it's 7 or 8 yards and the defense is in a bad spot, and he turns it into a 2-yard gain, which is a huge win for the defense anytime. And it's 2nd and 8, and Spagnuolo can be very flexible and kind of play to his calling cards and be aggressive. I think the last thing I would note, Ingram, give him a little shine. I kind of wish he would collide the fullback there at least a little bit, but he does a good job of just being patient and making sure that Prescott has to throw this ball quickly, and he can't think about tucking and running or throwing it downfield. I mean, he was applying the heat, and that's why you get this check down that Willie Gay cleans up very, very nicely.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thought on Ingram. Talon, I'm curious your thoughts. We're all coaches here, so we've all coached kids up to do certain techniques. Would you prefer he kind of just gets him off his route, even if it slows him up to get to the quarterback? Because that's the thing. Maybe if he does work on colliding with Schultz right away, maybe Prescott's able to get around him to the outside and has more room. I don't know. Talon, you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, if anything, just get him off his course a little bit, just be a disruption, be an obstacle. He's not really being anything. He's just kind of there, and then he's not, right. Like he just kind of waits until he, escapes, and then he just sneaks in behind him to go after the quarterback. So I'm with Bryan. I'd like to see him get hands on him. Okay. I'd like to see him do something. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that because it helps your linebacker out. He gets that extra step. But as you're saying, Bryan, man, that Willie Gay made up for it because if that is Hitchens or if that is Bolton, Schultz probably gets that corner and probably turns it up the sideline maybe. Ward's right there. Ward recognizes the pass coming. He doesn't sell too hard on the deep route, but on that wheel route. Oh, that's not Schultz. Oh, I thought that was Schultz that caught the ball. That was the 84. I don't know who that is. So, there you go. Looks like apparently a fullback, which I thought, I figured a tight end number 84. That's a tight end, but I don't know who that is. Anyway, great video here. Talking through someone we don't know the name of. But any last takes on the defense before we get into the juicy stuff, the offense, Patrick Mahomes? Any last takes, fellas?
I would, like I said at the beginning, if you find a few spare minutes, please check out the article that I put out yesterday, and it should get you excited because this team, Talon and Ron both have been talking about it. A lot of it's to do with the talent and just fitting it into the right places. And what that means is that this can keep going. And there's no reason that, other than them having injury problems, there's no reason this can't continue all the way to the very end for the defense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the injury thing. This team is not very deep right now on defense. And we've already seen that this year, right? I mean, the first half of the year, you can put a lot of that on injuries and the fact that backups are playing instead of the starters. Man, this team really isn't deep. Talon, I'll let you, if there's any final words on the defense before we move on.
Yeah, knock on wood that everybody is able to play the rest of the way. 'Cause like you said, man, we're not very many plays away from a Sorensen or a Neiman having to be a full-time starter.
Yes, and we already saw how that goes, so we are hoping not for that. But so the defense has been the fun part of the discussion lately, right? I mean, they've been so dominant, but I think quietly the offense has gotten back into a rhythm. 19 points against Dallas, you might be able to say, oh, that's not that great. They put up 41 against the Raiders and went back to down to 19. Well, you got to consider a few things, and it was similar to what we saw earlier in the season, but man, shooting yourself in the foot, man. Travis Kelce dropping a pass that turns into an interception. If he catches that pass, they're deep into Dallas territory, threatening to score. There's a missed field goal, missed extra point in the game as well. Trey Smith gets 30 yards of penalty on one drive and completely kills the drive. I mean, there was a few things that happened in this game that kind of distracted the offense. But what I was really impressed with about the offense was the opening script. I think, and that's been that way for this last month or so. It seems like Andy's really been pulling out the script, and it's been working for the most part. And so the final play of that first drive, that opening script, was one of my favorite plays of all time. I love this play when Andy runs it. We ran it in high school. I loved running this as a quarterback. I don't think I ever gave it once. It seems like it's always a pull on this play, but this is power read. And what power read is basically, and we've talked about power on this video before, the basic run power, where you have a fullback or a tight end type kick out the play side defensive end, and then the backside guard is pulling up through the hole, leading the back through the hole, and he's supposed to get the play side linebacker. Well, this is called power read because it's a similar blocking concept, except the read is actually going to be what kicks out this defensive end. So you'll see here, you got Tooney pulling, just like I said. He's the lead guy. He's leading the ball carrier up through the hole. And so instead of kicking Parsons out, number 11, the read kind of kicks him out for them, right? So if Parsons crashes down really hard on this and crashes down on Kelce maybe taking this inside, he gives it, and Tyreek has a lane around the edge, and that's where the read aspect comes into it. But what happens is Parsons reacts to Hill's widening, to Hill going out on an outside run, and that allows Kelce to take it, follow Tooney up the hole. And Parsons isn't the only linebacker that widens, and he's reading the whole kind of linebacker group. Look at 42 and 55, both kind of taking wide steps. Look where 42 ends up by the time he realizes Kelce has the ball right here. So that's why I love this play. And the cool part about this play is usually they run this actually with Pat taking the snap. And what happens is Travis actually lines up on the backside and comes, just under the lineman and becomes a shovel pitch guy. And that's actually how they usually run power read. Mahomes will hand it off in that same situation where Parsons crashes down maybe, but in this situation where he wants to keep it, he'd actually be pitching it to Kelce, and Kelce would be still following Tooney up through the touchdown. They're just cutting out the middleman and just letting Kelce take it from the direct snap. So that's why I wanted to point this play out, because you may say, oh, it's Andy getting a little cute in the red zone. They could just run it hard, up the middle. This is actually a pretty staple run play, and it's actually something they do quite a bit in the red zone. It's not really this trick, gadget play. He just simplified it by allowing Kelce to just have the ball right away instead of getting it on a shovel pitch from Mahomes. I thought that's a really – and they've done this before. They did it 2019 against New England at New England in the regular season. Kelce scored on a red zone touchdown on this play as well. But I'm a geek for this kind of stuff because especially, like I said, we ran this a lot in high school, and I loved running it. So get off my soapbox here. Fellas, is there anything from this play that's really particular sticking out to you? Any blocks that are really, pointing out? I'll start with Talon since Bryan his segment was last. Talon, you got any blocks you really like in here?
I mean, the double team with who is this? Is that Wiley down there getting some?
Oh yeah, look at Wiley.
They're getting dirty.
That's awesome.
He's even kind of pushing Trey with him. Look at Trey. But no, yeah, I think this is a good rep by the offensive line, and you see the attention he attracts. So great design and great execution. So yeah, I think this is a good overall play, and it's a good play call.
Bryan, you got any? Do you guys run power read at your schools? I mean, I'm sure it's a pretty staple play. I feel like, especially in high school.
Yeah. You run it, you see it, and I like what you said about, it kind of looks cute and that's what people might think, but it's not. And it is kind of a staple thing. And I like that this is something that, even though the Chiefs have ran this in years past, it's something that's going to be fresh on the minds of the Denver Broncos. They're going to have to prepare for this. They're going to have to test their in terms of practice and how they want to defend this sort of stuff and what else could possibly come from it. But and so I hope we see more wrinkles like this, just things that give opponents headed towards the playoffs about beyond Patrick Mahomes extending the play down inside the 10-yard line, which is a great option, but you need more, and why not? So I like it. Hope we can see a little more.
Yeah, and I already took the playoff, but it's a scary thing to think maybe Andy's thinking, oh, maybe down the road we can toss it back to Mahomes back there. If you guys saw, he was running the opposite way on a little pitch, fake, obviously just trying to get the defense's attention. I would not be in favor of Mahomes receiving a pitch back in that situation. So I hope that's not the wrinkle that Reed adds to it. But moving on, we got a pass play here that I really thought was really good play. First of all, really well designed play call. It's a simple play, and I'll get into that, but also good post snap recognition by Mahomes to get the ball where it needs to go. So come out here, you see Cowboys. I didn't get the clip long enough, I guess, to show you where the Cowboys started before this motion, but you see them moving around. They end up in single high, pretty obvious cover 3. You can tell. And what I love about it is the play call is a cover 3 beater. So you're going to see Pringle come out on that left side. He's going to get vertical, and then it's a corner or a flag route. I don't know. Is it a flag or a corner route to you guys? What do you guys call it?
Corner.
Flag,
Either.
right?
It's just the same thing, just different terminology in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a flag route. I call it a flag route, and so basically, his route combined with Tyreek, you watch Tyreek get to the flat really quick in that motion. He's running that out. So this puts the cover 3 corner in a bind, right? So the cover 3 corner, he has that entire third of the field, and no matter how deep it is, no matter how shallow, obviously there's a flat defender as well, but he does have that third of the field. So he does kind of have to choose, hey, what, am I, he's in between those two routes, the Hill or the Pringle route. Well, he doesn't even get the chance to think about covering the Pringle route because Mahomes gives such a definitive pump fake that Diggs, the corner over there, actually turns all the way around, committing himself to Hill. He spins all the way, which is not good cornerback play. You're not taught to spin around in a circle as you're transitioning from one route to the other. But he does it. He does it good enough to cover Hill, but obviously what that does is leave his third of the field wide open over him, where that safety obviously has to come over, the deep safety, middle third of the field has to come over and make that tackle. But 37-yard gain, and let's get to the end zone angle, because what I really like about the end zone angle is you can see, look how vicious that pump fake is. I mean, yeah, I'm falling for that. I mean, I know, and maybe people don't see how vicious that is, but look how much he thrusts his hips. I mean, that's a pretty strong pump fake. That's not just a little tiny shoulder fake. That's not just that's Mahomes really wanting to move that corner. And then he delivers a perfect pass to Pringle on the flag route as Dorrance Armstrong. Shout out KU, by the way. That's a former Jayhawk. Dorrance Armstrong gets in his face, beating Brown on the pass protection. Although Brown seems to set with a kind of a quick pass pro in mind. So I don't know if he's expecting much of a Mahomes to hold the ball on for too long. All that to say, great play design. I love Mahomes recognizing that it's cover 3, knowing that he has that cover 3 corner to mess with. And that pump fake will do it and give Pringle, leave Pringle wide open. Fellas, anything you got to, I know we could maybe talk about this Brown rep. I think that's actually probably worth talking about. Does he get absolved at all from this because maybe it's supposed to be, balls out right away? Or what do you guys think? I'll let Talon start again. He seems to be our line guy. I think we all could talk line. But Talon, what do you think about Brown here on this rep? What's Is this absolvable? Do we blame Brown a lot for this? I don't know. I don't know what to think, honestly, to be honest with you.
Yeah, go ahead and blame him, man. It's not a good rep. Negative rep.
Okay.
He he lunges. His feet are not, he really struggles with his feet, is what I've noticed with watching Brown over the course of this year. And you can see it here. He relies too much on his hands. He wants to get hands on people, and he reaches, and Dorrance just takes full advantage of it, and just he darn near disrupts the play, man. And when you're going to have a left tackle on an island like this against I'm not going to sit here and call Dorrance an elite edge rusher, because he's not. He's a good defensive end. He's decent, but he's not elite, man. And you can't have a rep like this. You can't have somebody, barreling down on Mahomes like that when a big play like this is at stake. So it has to be a better rep. There's not many excuses that I think could work here.
This is why we talk this stuff out, because honestly, I sometimes I default to like, hey, it's an NFL team. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, he must have, because you can kind of see his feet are just so like not ready for any sort of move that you think maybe he just thought, okay, the ball should be out right away. It's just a quick pass where he just doesn't want to make sure, he just wants to make sure the guy doesn't get his hands up, that kind of thing. And you're right. He does just kind of let him right around. Brian, is there anything from that play, that rep, or is there anything else from this play that you're kind of looking at right now and, wanting to have a take about?
Sure. I just think it's kind of crazy because a couple of years ago, even the year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, it was these kinds of defenses, these cover 3 based shells, that gave us trouble. That they kind of, you think back to games against the Chargers, even the 49ers early in that Super Bowl.
Yeah,
these types of looks gave them trouble, and now it's so weird because we want to see these kinds of defenses.
Right.
That's what they seem to have success with. So hopefully, I tweeted a little something about this a few days ago. I hope that this bye week, I know the coaching staff, the players, Mahomes especially, they had to be working their tail off, just trying to really look at what they are doing, especially against those 2 deep safety looks, and hopefully come up with some answers, some new things, maybe throw away some of the things they've been trying, and swallow their pride a little bit and really find, okay, what can we do to find the answers to that defense? Because if they figure it out, then the sky's the limit for the team, for the offense as a whole.
Yeah, no, you're right with the cover 3 thing. Like, how many times would we hear the Chargers and Gus Bradley were kind of the Chiefs, kryptonite? And it kind of was. I mean, Mahomes had his worst passer rating of his career through 2 seasons against the Chargers, against any opponent passer rating, I should say. But that's a good point. And one way to beat those deep coverages is to run the damn ball. So let's run the damn ball. Last play, guys. Appreciate you sticking with us. You can tell it's a very professional, broadcast we do here. But hope you guys are enjoying it. We're enjoying it. Like I said, it's becoming one of my favorite times of the week. And we'll finish this week off with another little wrinkle. And I don't know how much of a wrinkle it is. I'm not studying every NFL team. I haven't studied the Chiefs every single year. I don't know if they've done this before or how often they do this, but I just thought it's a cool wrinkle. For a pretty basic sprint out play. So pretty basic, you got your sprint out, your running back, attacks the edge to, kind of seal that edge, allow Mahomes to get outside. The 2 front side receivers are running, one's a comeback, one's a flag, I guess that's not much of a comeback, but pretty basic stuff. Kind of just getting to the sideline, running sideline routes as Mahomes runs to the sideline. However, usually on these kind of plays, as a defense, you kind of expect a drag route from the tight end from the backside, right? I mean, that's kind of how it's all. That's kind of just a staple of a rollout play. Kind of a one of those, from under center if you're rolling out off a play action. That backside tight end is usually coming across on a drag. Well, I think what happens here is that Andy purposefully puts his tight end on the backside. Obviously, he's just kind of helping block, although he doesn't really, that backside block isn't really doing much when he's pass protector. So in my opinion, Andy's kind of putting him there to kind of show the linebackers, oh, he's not running that drag. You can kind of tell, like, 27 Curse and some of these second level players, they're not even thinking about a drag coming, behind them because they see that Gray is staying in the block. That's the guy that's usually running the drag. Well, lo and behold, Tyreek is so dang fast that he can run a drag and get in Mahomes' line of vision from a receiver split. Now that's the problem, is that, you can't run drags with receivers half the time because they're not fast enough to get over in time to get in the quarterback's line of vision. That's why it has to be a guy connected to the line of scrimmage, like a tight end, because obviously he's closer to that side of the field. Tyreek's just so fast that he runs a drag and he gets in Mahomes' line of vision, just like that. So I just think it's a really cool Andy wrinkle. I think it's a wrinkle that he's running the drag, because, usually a receiver in this situation on the backside, he's probably running like a deep post or something where it's, if everything else is covered and the quarterback wants to take a shot because the safety overcommitted, that deep post might be open. But it's actually Tyreek running the drag, and it pops wide open because none of the second level defenders are expecting the backside receiver to be running a drag and actually getting into the play, in time to actually, make a play on it. But yeah, I just wanted to point this out. Another cool way to get Tyreek the ball. And since I started with Talon a couple times, I start with Bryan. I wanted to kind of point this out since we've been talking about Clyde. Do we think this is a good block on the edge right here by Clyde? Because he gets in Van Der Esch's way, but doesn't really stop him necessarily. Bryan, what do you think about that block?
So, I think half the battle when you're a running back in pass protection, half the battle or more is wanting to, and I think he wants to.
Right.
He puts effort into it, and he's clearly a small guy who is physically limited that way. And it's a tough player to be asked to block. I guess he slows him down enough to get the pass off. Yeah, it would be great if he had gotten him on the ground or slowed him down a little bit more. But it's one of those plays like I said, I really like the effort, the intent. It's just, and in a way too, it's a decent job by Van Der Esch to avoid it, but he doesn't make the play. So overall, it's a successful play for the offense. I can't complain too much, and I appreciate that Edwards-Helaire was ready to throw his body in harm's way on this particular block.
Talon, I'm curious your thoughts on this.
If it was one of my guys, if this was my team and that was my running back doing that, I'd chew him up a little bit. Yeah. I mean, you wind up face down in the dirt. I mean, yeah, you as Bryan said, ultimately the goal is accomplished and you get the job done at the end of the day. But still, you want to see an improved rep. Maybe the next time they run this, you want to see a little bit better execution. Maybe, I don't know if they coach him to chop down. I know the rules about, the cutting blocks are different now, but I personally would like to see you attack the outside shoulder, engage and wall off. But I'm not a big fan of the chop block there. But again, I think it could have been approached a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think just from watching the Chiefs, I think they do teach the chop because it seems like they all do it. And Darryl is very good at it. Darryl, it seems like whenever he's in on these kind of plays, he gets that guy to the ground and basically takes him out of the play. I think I'd agree. I think he does do the job enough, but even if he can hold him up for just a split second longer, he does just kind of get ragdolled to the ground a little bit, just kind of tossed to the side a little bit by Van Der Esch. But that's the other thing too with Clyde is I think the Chiefs really like to use Darryl and even Jerick McKinnon in these situations because not only are just because they're veterans, but I just think they're kind of maybe stronger bodies or bigger bodies that can, have more mass that can kind of take on those kind of blocks a little better. And like I said, Darryl's really good at it. Damian Williams was also very good at pass protecting in those situations. So, I kind of miss Damian. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of wish he was kind of in this backfield. I don't know. We can end the pod on if anyone's got any Damian Williams takes besides me. No?
Yeah, I always liked Damian. He was he's always going to be a big part of Chiefs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No question. I do kind of find it weird that, they brought in McKinnon, who, we're not really seeing anything out of. And Damian was a guy that was, knew the offense, was really effective in it. I don't know. I guess he probably wasn't doing much special teams when he was the starting running back, but I assume he could play a bunch of special teams, if he wasn't the starter. But wow, I didn't think I was going to be talking about Damian Williams tonight. But that's what happens when it's a late night in Kansas City. No, appreciate you guys watching. That was it for the AP Film Room this week. Going over Dallas Cowboys stuff, but we got the Broncos on deck. We're going to be watching that game Sunday. We'll be breaking it down next week again. You'll be ready for it probably Wednesday. And yeah, we'll do this again, boys. Appreciate you guys, breaking it down with me. Really having fun with doing this. Hope everyone is too. Please give us your feedback in the comments or hit us up on Twitter. And that's where we'll end. I'll let you guys kind of, say where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Coach Graff 34. That's where I am on Twitter. That's where I do most of my time. But yeah, man. As always, I appreciate anybody that's listening and watching. We try to share whatever knowledge we think we may have. So yeah, this is. I look forward to this being like a learning environment, not just for people watching, but for all three of us, man. Like I learn something new every time we do this from each of you guys. So really looking forward to that and this thing getting really, really big.
Love what Ron said about adding comments too. Get involved in the conversation, and you might be able to add something that we're not even seeing. So, but for me personally, my handle here at Bryan Stewart _ on Twitter. Follow, interact, be a lot of fun. And Sunday night we'll have Talon and I will have an Insta breakdown on Arrowhead Pride. Hopefully it's a positive one coming off of a 5th straight victory, and we'll see from there. I'm hoping to get out to the Raiders game in person. So I'd like to keep this winning streak going before I make that trip up there.
Before you break it, so you can jinx us by going. No, I'm kidding. We'll have a little in-person scout in there. We'll have a little, it is nice to actually be at the game and see it from that perspective. Sometimes you kind of forget the speed of these players and how crazy it is, just the game itself. But for us, for Bryan, for Talon, I'm Ron. Appreciate you guys joining. Like I said, leave comments, leave reviews, all that. Check out the AP Podcast Network. We got podcasts basically every day coming out. And we'll catch you next week. Go Chiefs.